We don't leave the odd house much, but that day Anya, my sister, convinced me to take a walk down to the river. She needed to clear her head, and honestly so did I. The house had felt unusually quiet, which was almost worse than the usual weirdness. We took the long path, following the old road that winds through the woods. It leads to a stone bridge that crosses the river, an ancient forgotten thing that no one really uses anymore. I could feel that familiar weight in the air. Something was off. Anya walked a few steps ahead of me, her hair bouncing as she moved. "Come on, Ravi, stop dragging your feet. I just want to get to the bridge before it gets too dark." I hurried to catch up, but as we got closer to the bridge, something strange caught my eye. There was a figure standing in the middle of it, back turned to us, looking out over the water. At first I thought it was just someone out for a walk, but the closer we got, the more my skin crawled. The figure wasn't moving at all. No shifting weight, no swaying like most people do when they stand for too long. Just stillness. "Ravi, do you see that?" Anya whispered, stopping in her tracks. I nodded, my eyes fixed on the stranger. Something about them felt wrong, like they didn't quite belong there. The air around us seemed to thicken, and I felt a chill creep down my spine. "We should go back," I muttered, but Anya shook her head. "No way, we're already here." She grabbed my arm, pulling me forward. "Besides, it's just some guy." We walked onto the bridge, the stranger still motionless. As we got closer, I noticed their clothes were old, like really old. Torn, muddy, and soaked through. And then I saw something that made my stomach turn. The feet weren't touching the ground. Anya noticed it too, her grip on my arm tightening. "Ravi, what is that?" "I don't know," I whispered back, trying to keep my voice steady. "But we need to leave, now." Just as we were about to back away, the figure turned around. Slowly, the face was pale, gaunt, with eyes that were too wide, too hollow. And when they smiled, if you could call it a smile, there was nothing but darkness behind those teeth. No sound, no words, just that empty grin. We froze, unable to move. The air around us seemed to throb with an unnatural energy, pulling us closer to the thing. It took a step forward, hovering above the stones, and I felt panic rise in my throat. That's when I called for Bhairava. Kala Bhairava has always been there for Anya and me, protecting us from whatever dark forces try to creep into our lives. He's not just a protector, he's a fierce guardian, a god who watches over the line between the living and the dead. He's saved us more times than I can count, and every time he appears, I know we're going to be okay. Bhairava's form shimmered into existence beside us, his dark, intense gaze locking onto the figure on the bridge. The air around us seemed to calm instantly, though the strange figure didn't disappear. "Ravi, Anya," Bhairava said, his voice low and steady. "This spirit is a preta, a wandering soul trapped between worlds. It haunts this bridge, seeking those who wander too close, hoping to pull them into its despair." Anya's grip on my arm loosened slightly. "What does it want?" Bhairava's eyes narrowed. "It seeks to replace its existence with yours. If it draws you in, you'll be lost, trapped as it is, wandering endlessly." I shuddered. The thing on the bridge moved closer, hovering just inches from the ground, its hollow eyes fixed on us. "We can't just leave it here, can we?" I asked, my voice shaky. "What if it goes after someone else?" Bhairava nodded. "The preta is bound to this place, drawn by the despair of those who cross its path. But it can be freed, if it's reminded of what it once was." I stared at Bhairava, confused. "Reminded? How?" He gestured to the figure, his presence radiating calm strength. "Speak to it, Ravi. Remind it that it was once human, that it had a life before it was lost to this state. Only then will it remember and be freed." I hesitated, but Bhairava's confidence gave me the courage to step forward. The closer I got to the spirit, the more I could feel its despair. It was overwhelming, like an endless pit of sadness. But I pushed through it, keeping my voice steady. "You were once like us," I said, my words trembling at first. "You had a life, a name. You don't have to stay here anymore." The spirit's hollow eyes flickered, as if something deep inside was stirring. It hovered closer, but this time the grin was gone. Its face softened, and for the first time I saw a glimmer of what Bhairava meant. It wasn't just a monster, it had been someone once. "You don't have to be alone," I continued, feeling the weight of its sadness lessen. "You can move on." For a moment the air felt still, then slowly the figure began to fade. The empty eyes closed, and the twisted form dissolved into the night, leaving nothing behind but the sound of the river below. Bhairava stood beside us, his presence grounding. "It is free now," he said softly. "Remember, not every spirit is evil. Some are lost, bound by their own sorrow. Anya let out a long breath, the tension finally leaving her body. That was intense. I nodded, feeling both relieved and exhausted. Let's not take this path again. Bhairava faded into the shadows once more, leaving us alone on the bridge. The night was quiet again, the eerie feeling gone, replaced by the peaceful sound of the river flowing below.